Crash Bandicoot, a mascot that not only established himself as one of the most iconic video game characters of all time, but also as my personal favorite video game franchise. And with Crash Insane Trilogy, a remake of the first 3 Crash games, and his first release after so many years of the franchise being basically dead, Crash is still going strong to this day, with Crash 4 being the most recent game, a sequel to Crash 3 that came none other than 22 years after said game. I guess Japanese Crash fans were confused at those news. But basically this is a mascot most people grew up with. If you had a PS1 as a kid, chances are you played at least one of his games. And if you never played a Crash Bandicoot game before, I will totally recommend you start with either 2 or 3, since Crash 1 is pretty much asking for a rough start. It's still a great game, it's just batshit harder. My favorite Crash game, if you had to ask, would be Crash Team Racing, which is in my opinion a game that is not only one of the best PS1 games, but also a game that will define the kart racing genre. I do plan on making a video about this game at some point, so let's just leave it at that. Either way, Crash was huge during the PS1 era, then had some hit or miss titles on the PS2, and then silence until Insane Trilogy was announced for PS4 in 2016. But something that people may not know is that Crash Bandicoot had also games released for none other than the Game Boy Advance. It was Crash's debut on a handheld console and also one of many PS1 IPs that would see simplified versions of their games on the GBA. Some of them were decent, but others were disappointing. And Crash, as many decent games as he had on the GBA, sadly also had shitty ones. But the game I wanna talk about in this video is actually one of the decent ones. In fact, it's the very first portable Crash Bandicoot game, The Huge Adventure, or XS if you are from Europe. Right off the bat, this game sets the tone straight with its plot. Uka Uka is angry at Cortex because he's incompetent and hasn't been able to get rid of Crash Bandicoot. And because of this, he decides to shrunk the Earth? I mean, sure? I don't really know how that will help you get rid of Crash Bandicoot. In fact, you're literally holding the whole human race in your hands. How's that for getting rid of one individual being? Also, I'm just gonna let you know right now that the Earth being shrunk doesn't actually have an actual point in the game other than it being part of the plot. Plot that, by the way, doesn't actually matter a lot. It's just an excuse for you to go around, beat bosses, and eventually get to Cortex and beat him. That's it. Oh, and also, for some reason they're using Crash 3 stills, even though this isn't Crash 3. And at the same time, they use original stills. If they can use original stills, then what's the point on reusing Crash 3 ones? Anyway, from here on out the actual game begins, and what would you know, it's a 2D side-scrolling platformer. It's pretty much a bonus stage from the first couple games turned into a whole game. And this game itself has bonus stages as well, by the way, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. So yeah, it's pretty much your normal Crash Bandicoot game. You go around, break boxes, and go through a bunch of levels and boss fights, just like in the PS1 trilogy. But it's all in a 2D side-scrolling fashion that will remind people of Mario Bros. But I gotta say, most of the mechanics in this game actually transition pretty well from 3D to 2D. You can walk, jump, spin, slide, do belly flops, swim underwater, ride a polar bear, use a rocket and shoot projectiles, which I think is one of the coolest aspects about this game by the way, and even ride a freaking motorbike. So it's not just doing side-scrolling platforming, you also get to change it up in some levels, which is pretty neat honestly. The different kinds of crates and boxes are also present, and they pretty much serve the same purpose in this 2D version of the game, which is impressive. You got, of course, the different types of crates that can give you Wumpa Fruit, the explosive crates, the Aku Aku boxes that grant you invincibility once you get 3 of them, and even the exclamation mark boxes that can do stuff like making invisible boxes appear or explode all of the nitros in a level. It's all present in this game. So, with all of that said, let's get into the game itself, as in, what do you actually do and where do you go? In this game, you go through various kinds of levels, collect crystals, fight bosses, and eventually you get to Neocortex and beat him. But that's not the actual end of the game, we'll get into that later. So, the best way to describe this game is basically a mix between Crash 2 and 3. Make it 2D and with fewer levels, which I totally understand since space limitations are a thing. You see, Crash 2 and 3 both had 25 normal levels, plus 5 boss battles. Big Adventure, on the other hand, had only 20 levels and 4 boss battles, making it the shortest Crash Bandicoot game in terms of content. But as we all know, quality doesn't equal quantity, and the game, as short as it is, it's still a pretty decent experience for a 2D side-scrolling portable Crash game. So, what about the levels? There's themes from both 2 and 3 in these levels. You got a jungle, snow, underwater, sky, and space levels. That's it. Hey, future Manny here. Turns out I'm stupid and I totally forgot to mention the sewer levels. I guess I was really into writing the script that I forgot that I had to mention that as well. So, yeah. Back to past Manny. With these levels having clever little names such as Temple of Boom, Just Hanging, Ace of Space, and Snow Job. I'm sorry, what? And the boss battles take place in some of those locations. You fight Dingodil, Tiny, Engine, and then Neocortex. And I gotta say, these boss battles are pretty lame. Yeah, I know they had to simplify them for the GBA version, but come on, I don't think anyone will spend more than 2 minutes in any of these battles. They're actually pretty disappointing in my opinion. Even Neocortex, who had one of the most stupidest boss battles ever in Crash 2, somehow managed to have an even lazier boss fight in this game. And by the way, they're all Crash size, all of them. Even Cortex, who, again, is the one who shrunk the earth and is the quote-unquote ruler of the world, even though he fights Crash in a normal size manner, once again proving that the earth shrinking plot is pretty much pointless in this game. And there's actually a pretty goofy aspect when it comes to the bosses that I'll get into in a bit, but first, we need to talk about the music. The music in this game are MIDIs that consist of remixes of Crash 2 and 3 themes, and I'm not gonna lie, there are decent versions of the songs from the PS1 games. Just listen to this. So what's the goofy thing about the boss battles then? Well, you see, all of the themes for the bosses are in the game. The thing is, they're all in the wrong boss battles. I have no idea if this was done on purpose or not, I highly doubt it. But in case it was, I just wanna ask whoever was in charge of putting those songs where they are in this game, what were you thinking? Anyway, after we beat the bosses, we get all the power-ups from Crash 3, minus the fruit bazooka, and platforming gets easier, but the levels also get more challenging. Not that it really matters cause you'll be done with this game in less than 2 hours anyway, but still. So yeah, we beat all the bosses and then the end happens. Well, not really. Because, of course, to get the actual ending of the game, we need to collect all of the gems, which include both normal and colored ones, and at least get a gold relic in time trials. Yes, that's right, this game has those, and let me tell you, some of these levels are not fun to time trial at all. In fact, when I recorded gameplay of this, I already decided I wasn't going to go for the true ending, since it was gonna take me longer than it should have to get this video out. But as you can see here, when you get all of that, you fight the actual final boss of the game, Mega Mix. In other words, all of the bosses combined together into one disturbing monstrosity. It's basically a chase boss battle, where you run away from Mega Mix using your turbo run, and have to keep destroying crates and doing platforming until you get to the end. Needless to say, I will never get this boss fight first try. But after you beat him, the actual end happens, and you can sleep peacefully now knowing that you beat Crash Bandicoot the Huge Adventure, and most likely have nightmares with Mega Mix. By the way, fun fact about Mega Mix that you may or may not know is that he was included as a playable character in Crash Team Racing Nitro Fuel, which was a nice throwback to this game. I'm sure nobody expected him to ever be seen in a Crash game again. But yeah, overall this game is a decent little handheld take on a PS1 icon. I wouldn't call this game amazing by any means. The plot doesn't really have any point at all. You could pretty much remove it and the game will still be exactly the same. But when it comes to the gameplay and the levels, it's actually decent. Yes, it's very short and probably will leave more to be desired, but let's be real for a moment. This game was good for what it was worth. It was the first Crash GBA game, but not just that, it was the first 2D Crash game, and it shows that even if it isn't the same as the PS1 version, this feels exactly like a Crash game. It has the feel and the essence of the games pretty much intact, and in my opinion, that's all that matters at the end of the day. And with that said, I give this game a 6 out of 10. And yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel. It's free and it will really help me out doing what I do. And yeah, thank you again and I will see you in the next video. Bye. Hey, thanks a lot for watching this video. If you enjoyed what you saw, make sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel. This motivates me to continue doing this type of content. Believe me, it does take effort, so support is greatly appreciated. I also stream on my Twitch channel, usually on the weekends. But I will tend to stream after a new video is up as well. So chances are I might be live there right now. So feel free to go and say hi. And finally, don't forget to join my Discord server. We have a small but cool community and it's also a good place to hang out, so come join us. With that said, thank you and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.